So I recently bought a 2015 used MacBook Air 11 inch, and I wanted to compare it to what you could get in a 2020 MacBook Air. I just wanted to do a comparison because I think that the 2015 has a lot to offer many years later. So the one thing that's really important to people is the price, and the reason I picked up the 2015 model in 2022, many years later, after it was first introduced, is the price of the 2015 MacBook Air 11 inch, and I got it for a real good price, $160. Now I got it on Gazelle.com here in the US. It sells refurbished, used electronics at really good prices, and I thought that was a hell of a steal at $160. I think it was like $159 and some change. They were running a special on there, and I also took advantage of some other coupon codes, and I got it like less than 3 days later, like 2 days later. And it came in great condition, and for that price, that's awesome because new MacBooks typically cost $1,000 and up, and in the case of the 2020 MacBook Air, that price, if you were to get it brand new, it's $1,000, but if you get it used, it's around, you can get it as low as $750. So the 2015 model really comes down in price, and that really steals the show. That was the first thing that caught my attention when I looked at it. I'm like, I gotta get it for that price. So the second thing that I'm comparing and I'm noticing is obviously the 2015 has a more outdated look compared to the 2020 MacBook Air. You have a lot more bezels, you have that gray color, and on the outside you have the classic Mac Apple that lights up, so that's pretty cool actually. The new 2020 MacBooks, the newer ones, they have just a solid, like shiny static MacBook or Apple logo on there. So aesthetically wise, yeah, you're getting a more outdated look on the 2015, but that's just, aesthetics. Let's get into the real things that really make this comparison much better for the 2015. So by no means am I a influencer or high-tech video or photo or audio editor. Now, I wanted to make that clear because although I like making videos and manipulating photos and videos, I don't use anything that's intensive. I use mostly my iPhone, believe it or not, to make, my videos and put them in all together. And I think I do a decent job considering it's just an iPhone or an iOS device. I never use a MacBook. I never use a laptop at all, really. I don't use any type of high-end software to do any of this stuff. And I think that's where the 2015 MacBook really stands out, because most of what I want a laptop to do or what I need it to do is going to be very light use cases. And even though the 2015 is 7 years old, it's obviously going to be slower. It's going to not be as fast as the newer models. But for everyday things, the things that we've been using for forever, for the past decade, they still do very well on the 2015. For example, you're going to be doing web browsing, you're going to be doing email, Chrome. You're going to use Chrome browser, Safari browser, checking Twitter. That's pretty much like the heaviest use. You could also do the typical. You could do Netflix, you could do movies, you could do all that good stuff, but I say maybe 80% of my use cases is using the browser. Also, you can do messaging and just doing all types of regular stuff that's usually web related. Because honestly, I think a laptop is worthless without connection to the internet. And the 2020 MacBook, although it is a faster, more beast of a product internally, you won't really see that much speed advantage being taken advantage of, just because everything is pretty much done online. Cloud storage and all that stuff is going to be the same. Everything that we do is pretty much online, and the 2015 MacBook really still can handle that very well. I'm trying to think of other things really. I mean, I'm not really using a spec sheet to compare these two, but one thing I know for sure is that the 2015 MacBook Air uses only 4 gigs of RAM compared to 8 gigs of RAM on the 2020 model. And although it seems very, very low by today's standards, I think most people definitely will get by on 4 gigs of RAM. That's what most iPhones typically have nowadays. And you could run several apps in the background and they'll still be opening very snappily. The 2020 MacBook Air obviously is going to have, you can do a lot more things at once with that extra 4 gigs of RAM. But I think for most people, like I said, for regular everyday uses, 95% of the time you're not going to need that extra RAM. Now, one thing that is super, super important, and I think it's a big advantage of the 2020 MacBook Air versus the 2015, is going to be the battery life. That's probably such an important thing in a MacBook. That's probably like the only detriment of the 2015 MacBook Air is that the battery only lasts around 4 hours tops. And obviously it has a smaller internal battery. The 2020 MacBook Air has a battery life of around 18 hours. So battery life is going to be killer on the 2020 MacBook Air. If that's the only reason for choosing the 2020 version, I think that's justified, because battery life for a laptop is very important. So for me, I think it's okay for the money that I paid for it on the 2015 for $160. 4 hours is decent. You know, it'll probably, I have to charge it maybe 2 times a day, but that's not a big deal, especially considering if you're going to be near a desk or a charger or using it while you're charging. I don't think it's such a big deal. But for $160, that is very, very doable. That's respectable for the price that you're paying. As for the software, I'm very impressed by the MacBook Air 2015 version because it's still running Monterey, and as of this moment, that's the same newest current operating system for macOS since macOS Ventura hasn't been released to the public yet. We're still a few months away. So that's a direct comparison right there. You got the same version of macOS on both of these computers, and they're separated by 5 years, and in total 7 years difference from Monterey and whatever was released in 2015. So that's a 7-year upgrade. So that's very impressive right there. You're gonna get almost the same features with the newest operating system. The thing that I noticed the most was pretty much introduced in Big Sur, which was before Monterey. It has that newer iOS feeling with the control center and just the aesthetics of it. So it's more iOS-like. So one big difference between these two is going to be the ports that are used. You got USB-A on the 2015, which is still widely used today, many years later. You got just less options on the MacBook Air 2020 model because that one has USB Type-C. Now there's advantages and disadvantages between those two ports because the 2015 model has MagSafe, and that actually is a good thing for a lot of people, and that might be a bad thing for some people, because although MagSafe charging is convenient for not dropping it anywhere, that means you definitely have to carry that charger around with you if you're traveling. You can't simply use a USB Type-C port that charges other devices such as phones and stuff. But on the other hand, having USB A is very convenient because a lot of things still run off USB A, such as your regular iPhone chargers. It's a very well-used port. You don't need any type of dongles or anything like that. So I think that's an advantage and disadvantage on the 2015 model. One cool thing about the 2015 model is just going to be that very compact size. It's more lightweight than the 2020 version. I think the 2015 comes in at 2.3 pounds, while the newer MacBook comes in at 2.8 pounds. So not a big difference, but to me, I just love the portability, and it's still very, very slim on the 11-inch MacBook. I mean, they're both gonna be very slim devices, and I just love that compactness. I chose the MacBook 11-inch over the 13-inch version just because I just like that very compact size. Just feels good when I'm laying down and I put it on my on my chest or on my stomach. I just don't like these gigantic devices. I mean, in general, the things I'm trying to find differences, and there's more things that are the same than are different for my practical uses. I'm going to be doing the same thing on the 2015 model than I would do on the 2020 model, and that's browsing the web, extensions, using Chrome, using Safari. On both of these laptops, you're going to get the mainstays of Apple services. So I'm talking about FaceTime, I'm talking about iMessage, AirDrop, things like that. You're gonna find them that you could use them on both of these laptops, and that's just great for a 2015 MacBook that I could say that about it, because you're only paying. I paid only $160. I think you could, the regular price probably. I think you're gonna pay around maybe $250 to $300. So I got it for a real good deal. And yeah, I think at that price point, it's very well worth it. The only thing that worries me is probably just going to be the battery. If I ever do traveling or anything like that, yeah, you're not gonna get a lot of battery life. And I'm a very heavy Chrome user, and that is probably going to chew up a little bit more energy and battery life on either of these machines. Another big difference between these is going to be the 2020 model has that fingerprint reader to unlock your device and to pay for things using Apple Pay. The 2015 doesn't have that, but it's not something that I consider a necessity, really. I don't mind putting in my password, especially if you have the Apple Watch as well. If you have an Apple Watch, both of these devices will unlock if you have an Apple Watch with it. So that covers the 2015 model for sure. Overall, I think both of these devices are very comparable to each other. The most important thing for me are going to be obviously the battery life and the software. You're not going to get any more support past Monterey on the 2015 model. The 2021 is going to have like many more years of support, at least 5 more years of software updates. But the price is still hefty compared to what a 2015 could be bought for. And I think I got a really good deal on it. I'm very happy with it. The only thing that really will make something I will notice is going to be the battery life of only having around 4 hours. When it was brand new, it stated to have 9 hours, which would have been awesome. But obviously, this is a 7-year-old device, and you're not going to get the same battery life as these newer ones that have monster battery. I think that's probably the best feature of the newest of getting a newer MacBook is just the battery life. That goes for iPhones, that goes for iPads, that goes for pretty much any electronic that runs off of batteries. That's probably the killer thing, because everything else is almost the same. It's just you can do the same productive things as long as you're not video editing, creating crazy content for YouTube and stuff like that. I typically use my iPhone anyways. I think it's just too much going on in iMovie on a Mac anyways. I cherish the keyboard. I really just wanted something that I could type with and have a real desktop operating system. My other main computer is a Chromebook, and I love my Chromebook. I love the battery life and the speed and the price on it, but it feels good to actually have iMessage and your photos and AirDrop on the MacBook. So it just feels good to have that whole ecosystem for $160. Well, guys, that's all I got for now. I hope you like this comparison. Thanks. Bye.